Victoria Lockwood and I were known throughout our social circle as the perfect, loving couple. But a month before our wedding, she suddenly called it off, deciding to marry a scholarship student my parents had sponsored. When I confronted her, she said, "If I don't marry Ethan, he'll have to marry that cripple. Sincere, you're so kind-hearted. You understand, don't you?" "Fine," I agree. Victoria stood on her toes to plant a kiss on my cheek, hugging me happily. I knew it. "Don't worry, Sincere. Once this is over, I'll divorce him." I gently pushed her away, wiped the moisture from my cheek, and pulled an invitation from my pocket. She took the invitation, and when she saw the names on it, the smile froze on her face. 1. Sincere Smith. What is the meaning of this? It's written quite clearly on the invitation. I looked at Victoria Lockwood, my face impassive, offering no explanation. She flipped the invitation over and over, then let out a cold laugh. "Sincere Smith, is this supposed to be funny? Quite the performance. You even scheduled it for the same day as my wedding, and you're marrying Clarissa Sterling, of all people. I know you're still angry with me, but I told you clearly I'm just helping Ethan Cole out of a jam, and then I'll get a divorce. Is it so hard for you to understand that?" Just as Victoria finished speaking, a knock came at the door. Ethan Cole entered, his eyes red. "Victoria, maybe we should just forget it. Really, it's okay if I marry Clarissa Sterling. It's just Seeing Ethan's aggrieved expression, a flash of pity crossed Victoria's eyes. She stepped forward, gently patting his back, and cooed in an incredibly soft voice, "Don't think like that. I said I would help you, and I will." I had no interest in listening to Victoria console Ethan. The invitation was delivered, and besides, I had one other matter to handle at the company today. I walked around them and straight out of the office. Victoria's voice followed me. "Sincere, where are you going?" I didn't answer her, but I heard Ethan's whimpering voice behind me, followed by the sound of Victoria's soft reassurances. She wouldn't follow me, although I had already decided to give up on her. The reality of it still stung. Victoria and I were childhood sweethearts. Our friendship slowly blossomed into love. Everything felt natural and destined. Our families were close, so after we came of age, our parents put the wedding. Seeing that he was hardworking and honest, and that his family was truly struggling, my parents began to support him financially. We never expected to be sponsoring an ingrate. After graduating from college, he joined Victoria's family company. Initially, he and Victoria had no interaction until one time when Victoria was visiting my house. He happened to come over to borrow money from my parents, claiming his father had a medical emergency. The moment Victoria heard this, she immediately gave him the money. After that, she even transferred him to be her special assistant. But as they spent more time together, I gradually noticed that Victoria and Ethan's relationship was becoming increasingly intimate. They would even spend time alone together, excluding me. I remember not long ago, at the company's annual gala, Ethan was standing close to Victoria, laughing and joking. I went up to remind her, "We're engaged." If people see you this close to Ethan and start gossiping, how is he supposed to find a girlfriend in the future? As I finished, Ethan looked up, his eyes filled with grievance. "Brother Sincere, I know you're Victoria's fiancé, but I'm her special assistant. It's natural for us to be a little close sometimes. It's a purely platonic friendship. How could you think of it as something so sordid? A platonic friendship?" Anyone with eyes could see that Ethan was harboring ill intentions. But not only did Victoria fail to distance herself from him, her expression soured. "Sincere Smith, can you please not think of things in such a filthy way? Do you have any idea how hard Ethan has been working? He just joined the company, just got promoted to special assistant, and he's being ostracized. I was just comforting him a little, and you have a problem with that?" She shot me a displeased glance. "If our families hadn't arranged our engagement, do you think I would definitely marry you?" I froze, watching her walk away side by side with Ethan. In that moment, I finally understood that everything had changed. The sweet nothings she once whispered in my ear were now a thing of the past. The tenderness once reserved for me in her eyes now belonged exclusively to another man. I could faintly hear the guests at the gala whispering, "Why is the Lockwood heiress getting involved with that assistant? Isn't she about to marry the Smith family's scion? Can't you see? Who can stand Mr. Smith's bad temper? That pretty boy is so much more considerate." But isn't their engagement public knowledge? The Smith family even boasted that as soon as the Lockwood heiress married in, they'd give her a subsidiary company as a dowry. If the Lockwood heiress backs out of the wedding, the Smith family will lose a lot of face. Even outsiders could see these things so clearly. I couldn't believe Victoria didn't. In the end, it was simple. She just didn't love me anymore. Now this was for the best. I submitted my resignation letter to HR and prepared to take the elevator downstairs. As I passed the emergency exit, I heard two voices from behind the fire door. Through the glass window of the door, I saw Victoria leaning against Ethan's chest, her face flushed. She looked just like she did when she was a teenager, hiding shyly in my arms. "Ethan, we can't do this, Before Victoria could finish, Ethan pressed his hand to the back of her head and sealed her lips with a kiss. At first, Victoria resisted, but it slowly turned into a return kiss. They kissed as if they were parched land receiving a long-awaited rain, frantically drinking in each other's affection. "Victoria, I'm sorry, I can't control myself. I love you too much. I only hate that I didn't meet you sooner. Ethan, I didn't want to hear the rest." I glanced at the ring on my hand. I had made it myself when I proposed to Victoria on her 18th birthday. Now, it was completely unnecessary. I took the ring off my finger and casually tossed it into the trash can by the elevator. The elevator doors opened, and I turned to meet Victoria's furious gaze. "Sincere Smith, did you just go to HR to resign?" I glanced at her and quickly pressed the close door button. Victoria rushed in just in time. "You know the company is in a growth phase. It's almost the end of the year. Where am I supposed to find a replacement? Isn't there Ethan?" Previously, Victoria had mentioned Ethan to me more than once, praising his strong work ethic. Now was the perfect time to give him my position, wasn't it? An unnatural look flickered in Victoria's eyes. She was silent for a moment before saying, "Ethan's abilities are indeed good, but the company still needs you. Are you still angry?" "Sincere, I've told you so many times. I'm only marrying him to fool his parents. I promise, as soon as his issue is resolved, I'll divorce him." I was tired of hearing those words. Ding, the elevator arrived at the underground parking garage. I walked. Victoria hurried after me, but I reached my car even faster, opened the door, and sped away before she could catch up. "Sincere Smith, you've got some nerve. You dare to treat me like this? Do you think you and your family can maintain your status without me? For years, my parents had toiled for the company. Now that they were older, they were losing their touch. The company's situation was deteriorating day by day. Victoria had used this opportunity to walk all over me time and time again. She forgot that if I hadn't joined her family's company back then, I would have taken over my own family's business directly. In the past, it was the Lockwood Corporation that was on the verge of collapse. It was only after I joined that their business slowly recovered. After I took over my family's company, I became busier and had even less time to see Victoria, until a party in our social circle. I rarely attended such gatherings, but having just taken over the family business, I needed to network, so I went. Unsurprisingly, I ran into Victoria and Ethan there. While Victoria was mingling with the other socialites, Ethan walked up to me. "Sincere Smith, so what if you and Victoria were childhood sweethearts? In the end, she still married me, didn't she?" With that, he lunged at me with his wine glass. The glass shattered, and red wine splashed all over Ethan's clothes. Victoria appeared at the perfect moment, gently brushing the glass shards off Ethan's suit. Ethan glanced at me, his eyes full of hurt. "Victoria, don't blame Sincere. I'm sure he didn't do it on purpose." Victoria glared at me fiercely. "Sincere Smith, have you had enough? Still playing these kinds of games at a time like this? Do you think this will win me back? Sincere Smith, I'm warning you. If you dare lay a hand on Ethan again, don't blame me for disregarding the friendship between our two families." I looked at Victoria with amusement. I walked towards Ethan step by step, my eyes cold. Lay a hand on him? Watch closely. This is what it means to lay a hand on someone. I raised my hand and swung it across Ethan's face. See that clearly? Consider this slap my blessing for your eternal happiness together. Victoria stood there, stunned. She didn't react even as I walked away. The very next day, I went to the biggest luxury bridal and jewelry couturier in North City. Previously, not wanting Victoria to have nothing when she married me, I had specially commissioned a bespoke heritage-style tiara. Because she loved traditional attire, I also had a custom-made formal gown tailored for her. Now that the wedding was canceled, I naturally had to get these two items back. When I arrived at the shop, the owner looked troubled and stammered. Ms. Lockwood already picked up the tiara and the gown. She also took a men's traditional suit. She said she was taking them to you. She had the order confirmation, so we thought you were too busy and had her pick them up. I could write off the gown as a loss, but the tiara had to be returned. It was set with a priceless aquamarine, an irreplaceable family heirloom. I called Victoria, only to receive a threatening reply. Return the tiara to you? Fine. But your parents just started a project with the Lockwood family last month. It seems there have been some problems with the project these last few days. Threatening me? I let out a cold snort on my end of the line. On her end, Victoria softened her tone. Sincere Smith, didn't you have this tiara custom made for me? I just want to give Ethan a dignified wedding. This time I was so amused I actually laughed. Seeing that I didn't respond, Victoria continued, Sincere, my wedding with Ethan is coming up soon. If you'd like to come, I cut her off coldly, no need. I probably won't have the time. Victoria was puzzled. Busy with what? I said calmly. My parents are preparing for my wedding. Oh, I see. That's good too. Sincere, you're always so thoughtful. All right, I'll adjust the wedding schedule. Before I could reply, Victoria hung up. The aquamarine on the tiara had to be retrieved, but I would leave that matter to the professionals. My wedding with Victoria was set for the same day. Early in the morning, a convoy of hundreds of luxury cars departed from my house to pick up my bride. The route to my bride's house passed the hotel where Victoria and Ethan were holding their wedding. As the hundreds of luxury cars drove by, I saw Victoria just stepping out of her wedding car, wearing the custom gown I had made for her, and the tiara set with my family's heirloom aquamarine. She was smiling sweetly, nestled against Ethan's side, while Ethan basked in the envious gazes of the crowd. But in the next second, the smiles on both their faces froze. 2. My family's private lawyer and his assistant attended Victoria and Ethan's wedding on my behalf. However, they weren't there to offer blessings, but to repossess my property. I had said it before. My things are not so easily taken. As for me, I glanced at the unfolding drama and simply told the driver to keep going. An hour later, I arrived in South City. The person blocking the door was Clarissa Sterling's brother. He was a lively and wild young man. The moment he saw me, he warned me to treat his sister well. The kid certainly knew how to balance a threat with a compliment. Perhaps feeling he had offended me, he then praised me for being handsome and clever, easily solving the series of challenges he had prepared. He willingly led the way for me. Entering Clarissa's room, the moment the door opened, I saw a bright and radiant face. She was a completely different style from Victoria. I walked over and gently lifted Clarissa into my arms. Her cheeks immediately turned red. She curled up in my arms like a shy little rabbit. I carried her all the way to the wedding car. After picking her up, we headed to the wedding hotel. Upon arrival, I carried her out of the wedding car, but the expected wheelchair didn't appear. Clarissa stood firmly on the ground. You... Clarissa's lips curved into a smile, revealing 2 cute dimples. I've been fine for a while. It was just a way to deal with some people with ulterior motives. I hadn't expected such a pleasant surprise at this wedding. I wondered if Ethan would regret it when he found out. My wedding with Clarissa made headlines the next day, but that's a story for later. The wedding ceremony was elaborate, and on top of entertaining the guests, I felt incredibly exhausted by the end of the day. After a long day, all I wanted was to lie down and get some sleep. I was taking off my suit jacket when Clarissa came in. She came around to my side, her hand on my chest, and gently helped me unbutton my shirt. The tip of her nose was almost touching my chin, and her warm breath tickled my face. I shyly turned my head away. Noticing the blush on my face, Clarissa's lips curled. I never thought the great Mr. Smith, a formidable force in the business world, could be so easily embarrassed. Her comment made my cheeks even redder. After finally getting the suit off, she urged me to go wash up. She also gave me a tour of our new home. Although our main residence was in North City, this villa was a wedding gift to Clarissa from her family. The Sterling family was more powerful than mine or the Lockwood family. They were worried Clarissa would be wronged by marrying me. So, they stipulated that after the wedding, we had to live in the house they prepared first. I had no objections, after all. It didn't matter where we lived. Clarissa, on the other hand, kept talking to me, and through our conversation, I learned about her life over the years. We were supposed to do something on our wedding night, but I was worried Clarissa wouldn't be comfortable, so I didn't push it. She wasn't in a hurry either, saying she was willing to slowly cultivate our feelings. That night, I had a rare good night's sleep. The next day, we were supposed to go see Clarissa's parents, but to my surprise, we saw them waiting for us downstairs early in the morning. After serving them tea as a sign of respect, Clarissa had the servants prepare lunch. The atmosphere at the table was harmonious. Mr. Sterling was gentle and loving, very tender towards Mrs. Sterling, serving her food and passing her water. The elderly couple kindly asked if I was settling in well, and I smiled, saying everything was fine. Mrs. Sterling lovingly told me not to be formal at home, and if Clarissa bullied me I should tell her, and she would back me up. Clarissa pretended to be scared. He's the only one who can bully me. How would I dare bully him? This made everyone laugh, creating a joyful atmosphere. Seeing how harmonious the Sterling family was, I also felt a sense of relief. You two can also come back to South City to visit when you're free. Your father and I don't have much to do anyway. You should come and spend more time with us in South City. The Sterlings only had one precious daughter. Now that she was married and living in North City, it was normal for them to miss her. So that afternoon, I took Clarissa back to South City with her parents. South City was a picturesque region of canals and ancient towns, with scenery like an ink painting, especially captivating on a rainy day. I looked around with curiosity. When I turned back, Clarissa was holding a portrait of me. The ink was still wet, but the likeness was vivid. I asked in pleasant surprise, "Is this for me?" "Of course." I happily took it, held it up to my face, and asked with a smile if it looked like me. Clarissa nodded, her eyes full of sweetness. Before she could speak, we heard rushed footsteps behind us, and the next second, Clarissa was knocked into my arms. I caught the faint scent of gardenia in her hair, and, for a moment, was completely captivated. When I turned to look behind me, Victoria Lockwood was staring at us fiercely. She had large, dark circles under her eyes, her hair was disheveled, and she looked haggard and depressed. Seeing me and Clarissa embracing, Victoria practically gritted her teeth. "Sincere Smith, who is she?" I frowned, shielding Clarissa behind me, and responded coldly, "Isn't it obvious? She's my wife. Didn't you see the invitation?" Hearing this, Victoria's face turned even uglier. "Sincere Smith, how could you do this to me?" "Victoria, there's nothing between us anymore. Don't talk as if I betrayed you. From the beginning you chose Ethan Cole. Since you made your choice, why can't I choose to marry someone else?" Victoria's face instantly darkened. At that moment, Clarissa, who was standing beside me, spoke. "Miss Lockwood came all this way. It wouldn't be right for you to leave empty-handed. It's my treat. Please, join us in a private room." Clarissa's words were incredibly tactful. She protected my reputation without embarrassing Victoria, and the onlookers on the street thought it was a reunion of old friends and dispersed. The knot in my chest loosened. I watched as the sullen Victoria followed us upstairs. This restaurant was a sterling family property. Seeing Clarissa, the owner respectfully addressed her as Miss and provided us with impeccable service, leading us to a very important person's suite. Clarissa thoughtfully ordered my favorite dishes and poured a glass of wine for Victoria. But Victoria was ungrateful, sneering, "You don't have to act like the lady of the house. Sincere and I have been in love for years. You can't just waltz in and take my place." Clarissa's beautiful face wrinkled. "Whatever your past relationship was, I am his wife now. You have no right and no standing to say such things to me." Victoria was momentarily speechless. I spoke calmly. "Victoria, let's leave the past behind. I'm married to Clarissa now, and I just want to live a quiet life with her." Victoria's eyes widened in disbelief. "But you've only known each other for a short time. You couldn't possibly have fallen in love with her so quickly. You're just trying to get revenge on me on my wedding day. It was you, wasn't it? Out of jealousy, you had someone take the gown and the tiara. Do you know how much humiliation I suffered?" Of course, I knew. But wasn't that what she deserved? Why was she suddenly remembering my good qualities now? I looked at Victoria coldly. "Victoria, I paid for those things. Not to mention, my family heirloom was on that tiara. Why on earth should I have left it for you? From the day I took my things back, you and I have had nothing to do with each other. In the future, I hope you won't disturb my life again. There's no love left between you and me. I don't believe it. We've known each other since we were children, over a decade of feelings. How can you just stop loving me like that? If I loved you, would I have married Clarissa? Stop deceiving yourself. We're over." Victoria was stunned by my words. After a long silence, she finally spoke. "How could you not love me? We've been through so much together. Is it because of Ethan? But I really had no choice." She lowered her head in remorse, her eyes filled with pain. "Sincere, I'm sorry, but you ruined that wedding. I didn't end up marrying him either. That day I was waiting for you, but you—" "Enough, stop making excuses for your selfishness, Victoria. The whole of North City knew we were engaged since childhood. When you slapped me in the face like that, did you ever think about how I would face people afterward? Victoria, did you not anticipate this outcome back then? Ethan crossed the line to declare his love for you more than once. Did you really not see that he was deliberately trying to assert his dominance and embarrass me?" Ethan had confessed his feelings to Victoria on multiple occasions. At first, she sternly rejected him, telling him she only loved me. But as it happened more often, her attitude became less firm, less cold. She even started to enjoy Ethan's advances. I warned her more than once, but Victoria would say, "Sincere, Ethan has had a tough life. It hasn't been easy for him. If I don't take care of him, who will? Besides, he's so young. What does he know about romantic love? He's just infatuated because I've been good to him." Victoria's words were full of favoritism for Ethan. I retorted in dissatisfaction, but I was met with Victoria's impatient reply, "You have the Smith family behind you. No matter what rumors fly, they won't touch you. But Ethan is all alone. Who can he rely on besides me?" I was heartbroken. It was true that the Smith family had influence in North City, but Victoria forgot that we couldn't afford to lose face like that. From the moment Victoria decided to marry Ethan at all costs, neither I nor the Smith family could ever allow her into our family. To put it bluntly, Victoria just didn't want to consider my feelings anymore. Now, she was finally reaping what she sowed. I stared into her eyes. "Victoria, don't forget that I am now married to Clarissa, and you were supposed to marry Ethan. From now on, we go our separate ways." With no connection to each other, no, Victoria practically roared. "Is it because of Clarissa Sterling? If she died, would you come back to me?" As soon as the words left her mouth, she pulled a gleaming dagger from her pocket. "Don't." Victoria seemed prepared, raising her hand to stab Clarissa in the chest so fast I couldn't react. I quickly tried to warn Clarissa, but the dagger never found its mark. With a swift turn, Clarissa dodged the blade and disarmed Victoria, snatching the dagger from her hand. Caught off guard, Victoria raised a fist to fight Clarissa, but she didn't know that Clarissa was a judo black belt. The moment Victoria tensed, Clarissa grabbed her arm, twisted it behind her back, and pinned her firmly against the table. "Ah!" Victoria cried out in pain. Clarissa didn't loosen her grip at all, but instead looked at me. I had been frightened by Victoria's crazed actions and worried Clarissa might be hurt. I was still in shock. Seeing my concern, Clarissa released Victoria and leaned into my arms, whispering softly to comfort me and tell me she was fine. I calmed myself down and anxiously pulled Clarissa to check if she was injured. She patted the back of my hand to reassure me, but then put on a wronged expression. "Hubby, she hit me. I need comfort from my hubby." I pressed my temples, speechless. I hadn't expected her to be so good at playing cute. But that scene had genuinely scared me. I was glad she was okay. I glared at Victoria angrily. "Victoria, I was going to leave you with some dignity. I didn't want to make things this ugly, but you had to push it and try to kill Clarissa. Then don't blame me for being impolite." I dislocated Victoria's other arm. Cold sweat beaded on her forehead from the pain. Victoria clutched her dislocated arm, her pain unconcealed. "Sincere Smith, how could you do this to me?" I gave a cold laugh. "You wanted to take her life. I only dislocated one of your arms. Is that so excessive?" She looked at me in disbelief, whispering my name, hoping for a shred of pity. But I was only concerned with Clarissa, completely ignoring her. Victoria, unwilling to give up, endured the pain and tried to take my hand, but Clarissa shoved her away forcefully. Clarissa's gentle demeanor was gone, replaced by a stern warning. "Miss Lockwood, there's a limit to your antics. I've run out of patience. If you harass my husband again, I guarantee you won't leave South City alive." Victoria was about to argue further when the suite door was suddenly pushed open. A pale skeletal man rushed in crying. I had to look several times before I recognized him as Ethan Cole. The last time I saw Ethan, he was dressed in designer clothes, smugly showing off to me. But the man before me was in rags, his cheeks so thin they were sunken, so weak he looked like he could collapse at any moment. It had only been about half a month since the day Victoria was to marry him, yet he had been worn down to this state. He looked utterly miserable, like a man at death's door. He knelt at Victoria's feet, crying, "Victoria, I know I was wrong. Can we go back? I promise I'll never lie to you again. Ah." Before he could finish, Victoria kicked him away in disgust. Ethan fell to the floor, sobbing uncontrollably. "Mr. Smith, please, talk to Victoria. Ask her to forgive me. I want to go home." His wailing was unnerving. I frowned in disgust. What did this have to do with me? He was the one who stole my fiancée, and now he wanted me to plead his case. My tone was cold. "Ethan, how Victoria treats you is her business. It has nothing to do with me, and certainly, you and I have nothing to do with each other." Ethan remained kneeling, refusing to get up. The day after our wedding, Victoria wanted a divorce. Now I'm the laughingstock of North City. I have nowhere to go. "Please, Mr. Smith, put in a good word for me. Let me go back." I was shocked. I hadn't expected Victoria to kick him out. However, I felt no sympathy for his plight, nor did I care how Victoria treated him. I had my own life now. The past was no longer my concern. But I never expected these two would refuse to leave me in peace. After just 2 days of quiet, they showed up at my door again. I couldn't suppress my bad temper any longer. I looked at Clarissa, who was equally annoyed with Ethan. Our eyes met, and she could see I had something to say, so she leaned in. "What are my hubby's orders?" I straightened my clothes and extended my hand to her. "We've been out for a long time. It's time to go home. I don't want to see these two wretches ever again. If they show up at the door again," I looked at the household staff and security, "you will throw them out if they cause any more trouble," I continued, my gaze sweeping over them. "You know the consequences." Clarissa understood immediately and added, "Did you all hear that? Do as the master says." If anyone lets them in, I'll be the first to deal with them after that. Things were indeed much quieter. Through this incident, however, I learned something. Several of the most well-known business institutions in South City were actually industries under Clarissa's control. She wasn't as fragile as she appeared. On the contrary, she was a formidable businesswoman with considerable means. No wonder the Sterling family had reached their current status. One day after Clarissa and I returned from an outing, we went into the bedroom. She suddenly grabbed my hand, acting cute, and said she needed to apologize. I was completely bewildered by her unusual behavior and quickly asked why she had to apologize. She looked up at me and said sweetly, "Hubby, I'm sorry. I lied to you." I was confused and asked her, "What did you lie to me about?" After a brief silence, Clarissa finally confessed. "Actually, Victoria wasn't wrong. I did put in a lot of effort to secure this marriage with you. It turned out that Clarissa had known me since I graduated from college. At that time, I was at an exhibition with friends and accidentally bumped into someone, spilling coffee on her clothes. I apologized profusely and said I would compensate for the damage, but the person seemed to be in a hurry and waved her hand, saying it wasn't necessary. It all happened so quickly that I didn't get a clear look at her face. Now, I knew that person was Clarissa. I was attracted to you right away. But when I had someone inquire, I found out you had a long-term girlfriend. I thought it was fate playing a cruel trick on us, that we met at the wrong time. I just hoped she would treat you well. But a while ago I heard your family was planning to arrange a match for you, so I had my parents use a few connections." My heart skipped a beat. I asked, puzzled, "Then what do you mean you lied to me?" Clarissa hesitated for a moment, then poured everything out. "After your engagement with the Lockwood family was called off, I heard your family intended to find you a partner from a family with less influence to avoid you being manipulated again. I had to continue pretending to be paralyzed and feign that I had no real power in my hands. Only then did your parents agree to our marriage." She glanced at me cautiously, afraid I would be angry, and quickly lowered her head. I was speechless again. I sighed and shook my head. "You're forgiven. Since we're already married in a family, we should naturally rely on each other and walk forward hand in hand." She breathed a sigh of relief, instantly happy like a little puppy, and snuggled into my arms. Then she stood on her toes and gently planted a kiss on my lips. That night, I had another dream. I dreamed I was being dragged to the Lockwood house. Victoria had a suit ready for me and was forcing me to marry her. Ethan sat in a chair, smiling at me sinisterly. My hands were tied and I couldn't struggle, already foreseeing a tragic fate in my despair. Suddenly I heard Clarissa's voice behind me. She cut the ropes and led me out of the nightmare. Looking back, the Lockwood estate was in ruins, covered in weeds, but with flowers blooming. I held Clarissa tightly, feeling all the bad luck and hardships drift away. I slept very peacefully that night. Perhaps my harsh words last time had made Victoria wary. She hadn't bothered me during this period, and my life with Clarissa fell into a stable and comfortable routine. One day at a family dinner, I was talking to Clarissa's brother, Leo, about the matter, remarking that at least Victoria had some regard for her family's reputation. Her brother looked at me with surprise. "Oh, my sister didn't tell you? Victoria's company was set up by a business partner my sister sent. It suffered significant losses. Then she was hit by a car driven by a vengeful shareholder. She's still in the hospital. I heard that the husband she married first contracted some filthy disease and passed it on to her. The Lockwood family is in chaos right now. Within a month, her husband died from internal bleeding. They didn't even buy him a burial plot. Now Victoria has to be on medication for the rest of her life. Who knows how many years she has left?" I managed a tight smile. Well, I suppose she reaped what she sowed. The past was written in stone, and I had no desire to dwell on it anymore. All I wanted now was to live a good life with Clarissa. As for Victoria, she was no longer a part of my life. "Hubby, what are you and my brother talking about?" "I bought your favorite cheesecake. Come and have a taste." I watched Clarissa walk over with a box in her hand and smiled. "Okay, let's try it together." The Sterling home was filled with harmony and laughter. I looked into Clarissa's eyes and smiled gently, ready to spend all my years by her side. The end. Chapter 1. On New Year's Eve, I came home to find a poor quality approved stamp on my wife's backside. My wife, Victoria Vance, flustered, explained it was her family's insignia. I sneered. What she didn't know was that I was a member of the Human Anti-Scum organization. Through the system, I could easily access the history of her affair. My wife turned out to be my final anti-scum mission. Upon completion, I would receive a $10 million bonus. Victoria Vance, wearing a sexy camisole, snuggled by the bedside. She beckoned to me, full of allure. I had to admit, Victoria looked truly beautiful tonight. "Hubby," Victoria said softly, "it's rare for you to be home tonight. The next second, my phone rang inopportunely. I answered the call resignedly. Victoria's face gradually darkened. I said apologetically, "Honey, I'm sorry, the client scheduled a last-minute meeting. I have to go sign the contract. If it goes well today, the project can start tomorrow." As soon as I finished speaking, a pillow hit me hard in the face. "Get out," Victoria cursed angrily. "All you think about is work. You might as well not come home at all." I picked up the pillow and put it back in its place. I kissed Victoria's forehead and coaxed, "All right, honey, don't be angry. When I get back, I'll buy you the latest designer bag." Victoria's eyes lit up, and she managed a reluctant, I quickly threw on my jacket and rushed out the door. Actually, I have a secret. I was bound to the system, becoming a member of the Human Anti-Scum organization, commonly known as a marriage adjudicator. My daily job was to handle various infidelity cases involving scumbags of both sexes. Due to the demands of my work, I was rarely home. To maintain cover, I'd taken a job in civil engineering. 3 days ago, I had a rare day off, but Victoria only rushed home tonight. I thought tonight was destined for a wonderful evening with my beloved wife, but unexpectedly a major mission came up. Feeling secretly bitter, I drove to the location assigned by the system. 3 colleagues arrived at the same time. We nodded in understanding and entered the hotel in front of us. The system announced, "Adjudicators in room 301. There is a despicable scumbag. His pregnant wife runs a barbecue joint back home, while he's out here squandering her hard-earned money on his mistress." I gasped. Truly outrageous. After receiving all the information from the system, my colleagues and I immediately initiated a series of standard procedures. Half an hour later, the man's wife arrived and caught them in the act. A group of reporters with cameras followed, recording the scene. My colleague, Quentin Stone, gave a wry smile. Why bother? He has a good wife and kids, yet he has to fool around. I shrugged. Having been a marriage adjudicator for so long, I was no longer surprised by such things. The most shocking case was a poor fellow who discovered none of his 3 children were his. I had gradually gone from deep empathy at the beginning to numb observation now. At least I was doing good deeds anonymously. Ending a soured marriage was my greatest consolation. However, I still felt very guilty towards Victoria. Because of my work, I couldn't often be by her side. Quentin Stone patted my shoulder. "Let's go, next mission." I gathered my thoughts and continued to slave away for boss system. Perhaps because the new year was approaching, the workload had recently surged. The system seemed to enjoy seeing scumbags in chaos as the New Year holiday approached, so it tirelessly assigned U.S. missions. Finally, I snapped. With instant noodles spraying from my mouth, I angrily demanded, "System, do we even get a New Year's holiday? Not even a capitalist would exploit someone this much." After a moment, the system replied sullenly, Yes, the holiday starts tomorrow." Tomorrow was New Year's Eve. Chapter 2. With the holiday granted, I immediately rushed home without stopping. Victoria's attitude towards me was extremely cold. I approached her with a cheeky grin, wheedling, "Honey, I'm back." Victoria pulled away from me and without looking up asked, "Where's the bag you promised to buy me?" Like a magician, I pulled it out from behind my back. "Honey, of course I bought it." Seeing this, Victoria's expression finally softened. Without a word, she took the bag and immediately started taking pictures wildly with her phone. I moved closer, but Victoria pushed me away. "Get lost, yours truly is busy." I glanced at Victoria's phone. Messages were constantly popping up. Victoria owned an online shop and was indeed quite busy usually. I knew I was in the wrong, so with Victoria in a bad mood, I didn't dare bother her further. However, I smirked slightly. Tonight, I had to make it up to her properly. It wasn't until late at night that Victoria put down her phone and returned to the bedroom. I immediately went over and respectfully handed her a nightgown. "Honey, hurry and change into your nightgown." Victoria's expression stiffened and she said awkwardly, "It's been a bit cold at home lately, so I won't change for now." "Cold?" I froze. Our apartment complex was famous in the neighborhood for its good heating. How could Victoria be cold? I immediately touched Victoria's forehead. "Honey, you don't have a fever, do you?" Victoria impatiently pushed my hand away. "What's wrong with you? Just go to sleep." I felt a little disappointed. I rarely came home, yet Victoria was so cold. But Victoria had never been like this before. Victoria and I had been married for a year, and she had always been very clingy. Every time I came home, she wanted to stick to me 24/7. But now, she seemed like a different person. "Honey, don't be angry anymore," I said, approaching her again, unwilling to give up. But Victoria was about to turn off the lights directly. I panicked and, catching her off guard, pulled down her pants. Victoria frantically turned sideways, trying to pull her pants up. A very conspicuous, poor-quality approved stamp seared into my eyes. In that moment, my mind exploded. Because the stamp was on Victoria's backside, who would get a quality approved stamp on their own butt? In an instant, countless terrible thoughts flooded my mind. Finally coalescing into the worst possible conclusion, Victoria was having an affair. Almost trembling, I asked, "Victoria, what's that on your butt?" A flicker of barely perceptible panic crossed Victoria's eyes, but she quickly composed herself and said with a laugh, "Oh, don't even mention it. The day before yesterday, I stayed overnight at Dad's, and my little nephew, Kevin, stamped this thing on my butt. That little rascal even stamped one on Mom and Dad. It's like a family insignia." Now Victoria said vividly, "You have no idea. Dad almost skinned my little nephew alive, seeing I was still suspicious," Victoria added. "Let me tell you, this thing won't wash off easily. I've been worried sick these past few days, afraid someone would see it and laugh at me." I sharply caught the loophole in Victoria's words. "You went to your parents the day before yesterday? How come I didn't know?" Victoria suddenly got angry. She snapped irritably, "What? Are you doubting me? You're busy with work all day. When are you ever home? Do I have to report to you even when I visit my parents? Besides, why don't you ever consider me? Don't you think I get lonely at home by myself all day?" I was speechless for a moment. Victoria gave me no more chance to speak and turned over, falling fast asleep. But I couldn't sleep at all. Ding, after some time, Victoria's phone suddenly chimed. Married for years, I had never checked her phone, but this time, as if possessed, I glanced over. A text message appeared on the screen. "Babe, is the stamp still there? Send master a picture to check." Chapter 3. Trembling, I tried to take Victoria's phone to find out more. But Victoria suddenly woke up. With a stern face, she demanded, "Sincere Clark, what on earth are you doing not sleeping? If you're not sleeping, others want to get out." In the end, she kicked me out onto the living room sofa. The next day, Victoria continued to give me the cold shoulder. She went out to buy fruit, planning to visit her parents, Eleanor and Walter Vance. I paused and proactively tried to ease the tension. "Honey, this year let me go with you." Victoria replied with difficulty, "Sincere, can you stop messing around? You know Mom and Dad don't like you. It's New Year's, I don't want any drama. Isn't it better for you to stay home for a couple of days?" Indeed, before our marriage, Victoria's parents, Eleanor and Walter, were very dissatisfied with me. While we were dating, they secretly arranged several blind dates for Victoria with wealthy overseas returnees. Only after those failed did they reluctantly agree to let Victoria marry me. But during holidays, whenever I visited, I was invariably met with sarcasm and ridicule. I felt sorry for Victoria, knowing she was caught in the middle, so I stopped showing up. This time, however, I had to go. The stamp on Victoria coupled with last night's text message. So, I had to go back and find out the truth. After a while, seeing she couldn't dissuade me, Victoria had to let me come along. On the way, she chattered endlessly, giving me many instructions. Finally, Victoria added, "When you get there, absolutely do not mention the stamp. My little nephew Kevin got a bad beating. Don't scare the child again." My heart skipped a beat. Through the car mirror, I keenly observed the nervousness and panic on Victoria's face. Soon we arrived at Eleanor Vance's house. Eleanor, wearing an apron, opened the door with a beaming smile. But the moment she saw me, the smile vanished from her face. "Mom, Dad, Happy New Year," I said awkwardly. "Sincere, what are you doing here?" Eleanor's face was clearly displeased. She looked me up and down, saw I was only carrying a box of tea, and immediately started with her sarcasm. "A box of tea? What, do you want me to make tea leaf eggs for a whole year?" Eleanor then snorted, "If you ask me, cash is more practical." Next door, little Amy's son-in-law gave his mother-in-law a $10,000 cash gift. "I guess I'll never have such luck in my life." Her words were like a bucket of cold water poured over me. I stood frozen, not knowing what to say. This tea was something I redeemed from the system using mission points. It was top-quality Dragonwell tea, with a market price of over $30,000. I had kindly brought the tea for Eleanor, but not only did she not recognize its value, she also ridiculed me. Victoria didn't defend me, just impatiently pulled me along. "It's New Year's, why the long face?" Mom was just saying. "Why take it so seriously? Hurry up and come in." I sighed and silently placed the tea by the door. Little Kevin Vance was sitting by the sofa, playing with building blocks. While Victoria was in the restroom, I quietly picked up little Kevin and tentatively asked, "Kev, I heard you put a stamp on your Aunt Victoria?" The 6-year-old nephew blinked his eyes and asked innocently, "Uncle Sincere, what stamp?" Hearing this answer, I stared blankly for a moment. Children don't lie. Besides, he supposedly got a harsh beating from his grandfather, Walter Vance, because of the pork stamp incident. How could he be so calm? The next second, Victoria suddenly appeared and curtly interrupted me. "Sincere, what are you standing there for, stunned? Hurry up and help in the kitchen." I didn't dare delay and immediately went to the kitchen. For the rest of the day, Victoria gave me no opportunity to get close to Kevin alone. Speaking of which, Victoria wasn't particularly fond of children, which is why we hadn't had any after getting married. I knew Victoria too well. Her current state was very strange. But the more Victoria deliberately tried to hide things, the more suspicious I became. I always felt there was more to this than met the eye. After New Year's Eve dinner, Victoria, Walter, and Eleanor gathered around the TV to watch the New Year's Eve special. I was in the kitchen cleaning up the leftovers when I faintly overheard Eleanor and Victoria's conversation. Eleanor had intentionally lowered her voice, but I still caught every word. Ever since binding with the system, my vision and hearing had become extraordinary. The system said it was to help us complete missions more effectively, but now I'd rather not have this skill. Chapter 4. Eleanor said to Victoria, "Daughter, I told you long ago not to marry this good-for-nothing. Now I can't stand the sight of him in any way." As she spoke, Eleanor glanced at me intentionally a few times. Victoria snorted. "Mom, actually, I regret it too. But he's rarely home, and as long as he gives me money, it's fine. I know you look down on Sincere, but don't be so obvious about it. Actually, the tea he brought is quite expensive, but with him, it just seems worthless." Hearing this, Eleanor's tone became noticeably more animated. Well, at least the boy has some conscience. This conversation completely chilled my heart. The person I treated with sincerity hurt me the most. How I wished Victoria would ask herself, with a clear conscience, how I had wronged her. Although I wasn't the wealthy son-in-law Eleanor desired, My income after binding with the system was quite substantial. All the money I earned, except for a portion for my daily expenses, was given to Victoria. Victoria's designer bags already filled an entire wall. In life, I was completely obedient to Victoria, never perfunctory in the slightest. Really, in Eleanor's eyes, was I so worthless? After clearing the dishes, I went straight back to the room. Victoria was somewhat taken aback and immediately rushed into the room to argue with me. Sincere, what do you think you're doing? It's New Year's, what's gotten into you? Mom and Dad are still out there, can't you at least cut some fruit for them? With a cold face, I looked at Victoria. Victoria was startled by my sudden reaction. She said no more and left sullenly. The New Year's bells finally chimed. Victoria punctually updated her social media feed, captioning it, "New Year, may Mom and Dad be healthy, and may my own career be successful. That's the greatest happiness." But she didn't mention me at all. I suddenly realized Victoria hadn't shown any public displays of affection for a long time. Looking through her social media, she seemed to have been maintaining a so-called single persona all along. Just as I was thinking this, Victoria pushed open the door and came in to sleep. I moved my lips, but seeing Victoria had no intention of acknowledging me, I didn't speak. Soon Victoria fell asleep, but my heart was bitter and I tossed and turned, unable to fall asleep. Victoria's phone was right beside her, constantly flashing with message notifications. But Victoria had clearly told me her online shop had suspended shipping during the New Year holiday. Who would be messaging her so late? My sixth sense told me that her phone definitely held the truth I was looking for. I paused, picked up the phone, and unlocked it. The moment I opened her messaging app, my pupils quivered. The first chat that caught my eye was with someone named Old Baby. I mustered the courage to click on it. In an instant, it felt as if my blood ran cold. The other person had sent quite a few messages. "Babe, how's it going? Your husband must be home for New Year's, right? Did he find your stamp? Why aren't you replying? Tell me how your husband reacted. Hey now, what's going on, my queen? Why no reply?" I slowly scrolled up through the chat history. They chatted frequently. After a long time, I still hadn't reached the beginning of their chat history. My breathing became increasingly rapid, as if all the blood in my body had rushed to my head. Victoria had betrayed me. 3 days ago, the night Victoria claimed to have stayed over at her mother's house. To spice things up after they made love, Old Baby suggested putting a pork quality approved stamp on Victoria's backside. During this time, Old Baby had been constantly asking Victoria about me. I clenched my fists and silently put the phone back in its place. It seemed he was truly impatient to see my reaction. Chapter 5. Looking at Victoria sleeping soundly beside me, I had mixed feelings. How I wanted to pull her up and demand why she had betrayed me. But I understood that even if I confronted her now, Victoria wouldn't admit her mistake. Moreover, Walter and Eleanor already disliked me. They would surely conspire with Victoria to destroy the evidence, leave me with nothing and kick me out. So now I had to choose patience. I had to get back every bit of sincerity I had wasted on Victoria. And of course, I would make her pay the price she deserved. The next day I drove to the organization's base. I contacted the system and requested to view my wife's affair history. The system looked at me with considerable sympathy. "Tisk, tisk, tisk, how did it come to investigating yourself?" Soon the system helped me retrieve all the evidence. I never would have guessed that my wife's betrayal had started 6 months ago. But the last time I came home, Victoria had clearly been very affectionate. The system couldn't help but interrupt me. "Stop deluding yourself. It was because Gabriel Gabby Moss bought Victoria a new set of lingerie, and they wanted you to test the waters first." I clenched my fists, so I was the clown all along. When I left home, Victoria had feigned anger and used it as an excuse to demand a designer bag. The system spoke again, heartlessly. Victoria used that bag to suck up to Gabriel Moss's mother. At that moment, I felt my blood pressure skyrocket. I immediately took out my phone and photographed all the evidence of Victoria's infidelity. The system said mischievously, "Adjudicator Sincere Clark, Do you have enough storage? In the past, during missions, I would often joke with the system, but now, I really wasn't in the mood. The next second, Victoria's figure reappeared on the screen in front of me. Wait, if it wasn't related to her affair, the system wouldn't have extracted it. Looking at my wife on the screen, about to cheat again, I almost pulled out my 40-meter-long machete. I immediately rushed out the door and drove home. This time I had to catch Victoria red-handed. The system couldn't help but ask, "Adjudicator Sincere Clark, aren't you going to watch till the end?" Me. There was some traffic. By the time I got home, half an hour had passed. I took out my key and pushed the door open directly. In that moment, I felt like my world was collapsing. Clear, intimate sounds came from the bedroom. "Hey, this stamp is really interesting. Should we try a different spot next time?" Victoria said shyly. "Naughty you, it's all your fault. I almost didn't fool Sincere this time. If we change the spot next time, he'll definitely flip out on me." "So what then? If I get divorced, will you marry me?" Gabriel Moss sounded a little flustered. "Hey, what are you talking about?" He hurriedly changed the subject, "My dear. Who made you so enchanting? Come on, let Big Bro cherish you properly." He then pushed Victoria down onto the bed. Unfortunately, Victoria didn't catch the underlying meaning in Gabriel's words. The information the system provided showed that Gabriel Moss was a complete con man and deadbeat. He pretended to be a rich heir to lure beautiful women, solely for the purpose of swindling money. I'm not exaggerating. Gabriel Moss's bank account balance would never exceed $500. Victoria naively thought she had hooked a wealthy man, never imagining that leaving me would mean stepping into an abyss. I smirked. I was curious to see Victoria's reaction when she learned the truth. Chapter 6. I had just put down my keys when Victoria inside heard the noise. Victoria frantically got dressed, but her collar was still messy. The bedroom door opened, and Victoria and I stared at each other. "Sincere, you—" "How are you back?" Victoria said awkwardly. "I thought you drove off this morning for work." I sneered in response. "What? Am I back at an inconvenient time? The bag I gave you, you used it to suck up to someone else. We've been married for so long. And you couldn't even bear to buy my mom a $200 foot spa massager." At that moment, my long-suppressed emotions finally erupted. I didn't feel wronged for myself, but I felt guilty towards my parents. I hadn't found them a good daughter-in-law, and had even made my elderly parents suffer because of me. As soon as I said this, Victoria became agitated. "What do you mean? I didn't do anything. Gabriel is my colleague. What nonsense are you spouting in broad daylight? I see you're really looking for trouble. If you ask me, you shouldn't have come home at all." I gave a sarcastic smile. "Colleague?" I then looked at Gabriel Moss, whose belt was undone, and said coldly, "You, get out of my house." Gabriel Moss immediately became annoyed. He was used to putting on airs, and accustomed to borrowing power. He certainly couldn't stand this. He immediately stood up and pushed me. "How dare you talk to me like that?" Gabriel Moss turned to Victoria and mocked me. "Victoria, is this the man you found? Can't even earn money, and he's such a good-for-nothing. You're a pretty girl. How did you end up with such a loser?" These words truly provoked Victoria. In Victoria's heart, I had always been a husband who couldn't be presented in public. Since I married her, Eleanor and Walter had said this more than once. Several times I had overheard them. But now, these words coming from Victoria's lover had maximum impact. Before I could even retort, Victoria said angrily, "Sincere, since it has come to this today, let's just get a divorce. I've been with you for so many years and suffered countless disdainful looks from others. Yours truly has had enough of this life." I replied decisively, "No problem." Victoria hadn't expected me to be so straightforward and was momentarily stunned. She probably thought I would continue to grovel at her feet like a dog, but after being hurt for so long, my heart had already grown cold. This relationship, I'd just consider it my misjudgment. Victoria subconsciously glanced at Gabriel Moss, and her confidence gradually grew. But at this moment, Gabriel Moss's expression was somewhat peculiar. I knew he definitely didn't want Victoria to divorce me, because then her financial value would plummet. However, Victoria didn't notice anything amiss and continued provocatively, divorce. It is sincere. I really underestimated you, to tell you the truth. I've looked down on you for a long time. I nodded calmly. I know. But before the divorce, we need to go through the legal process. You won't take a single cent of what's mine. Victoria said disdainfully, Tisk, your paltry sum of money? Yours truly doesn't care for it. Without you, I can absolutely find someone better. You can hug your junk for the rest of your life. Looking at Victoria's incredibly arrogant face, I sneered and directly contacted a lawyer. A week later, the court announced the verdict. Victoria left with nothing and had to compensate me $25,000 for emotional distress. Chapter 7. Coming out of the registry office, Victoria threw $20,000 in cash right in my face. She sneered disdainfully, sincere. I think you're really desperate for money. This cash, consider it as yours, truly, feeding it to a dog. Then, right in front of me, she unreservedly called Gabriel Moss, but the call was immediately disconnected. Victoria, still not giving up, called again. It wasn't until the 5th try that Gabriel Moss answered impatiently. Gabriel's cold voice came from the other end. What is it? I'm busy, Victoria said excitedly. Gabriel, I'm divorced now. When are you free? Let's go get our marriage certificate. But the next second, a clear female voice was heard. Honey, who is it? Victoria's face completely stiffened. She cursed angrily. Gabriel Moss, what are you doing right now? Is this what you call busy? What do you mean? Didn't you say you'd support me if I got divorced? Next, Gabriel Moss's words made Victoria thoroughly recognize reality. Gabriel said, Honey, stop dreaming. I never said I'd marry you. I'm busy. Don't call me again. Beep, beep, beep. The call disconnected. Victoria tried to call again, but Gabriel Moss had directly blocked all her contact methods. Victoria's eyes turned red with anxiety, and she was on the verge of tears. She frantically redialed again and again, cursing, Gabriel Moss, you liar, I'll definitely find you. I gave a sympathetic smile and turned to leave. Suddenly, the system's mechanical prompt appeared in my mind. Congratulations, host, you have achieved the milestone of 1,000 anti-scum missions. You will receive a $10 million bonus and be unbound from the system. Me? 10 million, I didn't hear that wrong, did I? The system spoke again. That's correct, host. Congratulations on your honorable retirement. Your bonus will be credited to your account in 3 seconds. We are very grateful for your outstanding contributions to the anti-scum organization. The world is a more beautiful place because of you. I will also be leaving soon to find the next host. At that moment, I even wondered if there was something wrong with my mental state, until I heard, mobile payment received, $10 million. Looking at the numbers in my balance, I finally realized this wasn't a dream, so Victoria had been my final anti-scum mission in the organization. Somewhat ironically, the gears of fate had slowly turned, finally forming a closed loop at this very moment. I simply couldn't describe my current joy in words. In the evening, I rushed home and bought many health supplements for my parents. I told my mother about my divorce, but fearing she would worry too much, I didn't reveal the true reason. My mother was very regretful and sighed deeply. Looking at my mother's increasingly stooped figure, I felt even more guilty. Ever since Victoria and I got married, I had rarely had time to spend with my mother. Victoria felt my family's home environment was poor and looked down on my parents' lack of education, so she never agreed to visit them with me. During holidays, she would just send a few perfunctory greetings via messaging app. When Victoria first started her online shop, she needed a large investment. I borrowed $2,000 from my mother for emergencies and also used all my own assets, but Victoria showed no gratitude and didn't even visit my mother during the new year. All these years, I had seen all the grievances my mother suffered. It was I, as an unfilial son, who failed to see Victoria's true colors sooner, needlessly breaking my parents' hearts. But from now on, none of this would happen again. I murmured, Mom, in the future I will definitely make it up to you. I enrolled in a law training course and, through hard work, became a lawyer. I then used the bonus from the system to establish a law firm. Perhaps because fate was on my side, my career flourished and the law firm gradually grew in scale. It's no exaggeration to say that I had one of the most elite legal teams in the country. Chapter 8. But I never imagined that one day I would meet Victoria Vance again. And this time, the case I took on was Victoria's divorce case. Late that night, a disheveled Victoria walked into the firm. I was about to leave work when I saw a client arrive, so I paused what I was doing, until I saw Victoria's bruised and swollen face. Compared to years ago, she now looked haggard, like a woman worn down by domestic troubles. Victoria stared blankly for a moment, then said incredulously, "Sincere Clark, you became a lawyer?" She stared at the name badge on my chest for a long while, then threw herself into my arms, breaking down in tears. She couldn't stop apologizing to me. "Sincere, I wronged you back then. I regret it. I really regret it. Can you help me, please? I don't want to be with that madman Gabriel Moss anymore. Can we get back together?" It turned out that not long after her divorce from me, Victoria had, as she wished, married Gabriel Moss. Although Gabriel had blocked all her contacts that day, he couldn't withstand Victoria's persistent harassment. Whenever Gabriel found a new target, an almost crazed Victoria would find ways and means to sabotage it. Eventually, Gabriel Moss gave in. He agreed to marry Victoria. Of course, from his perspective, marrying Victoria had nothing but benefits. In a way, by marrying Victoria, Gabriel had found himself a free maid, but this still didn't stop him from continuing his affairs. But the good times didn't last. Not long after the marriage, Victoria discovered Gabriel's secret. Years ago, Gabriel Moss had taken out high-interest loans and thus became a deadbeat. Furthermore, Victoria found evidence on Gabriel's phone of him luring married women. That day, Victoria had planned to tell Gabriel about her pregnancy as a surprise, but Gabriel, his true colors exposed, became desperate and violently beat Victoria, causing her to miscarry. Disheartened, Victoria asked for a divorce, but was kept under control at home by Gabriel, unable to leave during this period. Gabriel repeatedly subjected Victoria to domestic violence and verbal threats. Finally, Victoria managed to escape. The moment she saw me, Victoria's hope was rekindled. I pushed Victoria away. To me, her experience was merely basic client information. I felt no emotion. But clearly, Victoria's current state made her unsuitable as my client. I handed Victoria a subordinate's business card and said in a low voice, "Miss Vance, it's after hours now. Since you don't have an appointment, I can't see you. Please go home for now and contact him tomorrow." Victoria said unwillingly, "Sincere, do you really not like me anymore? You haven't married all these years. Isn't it because you couldn't forget me? Since we still have a chance, why can't we be together again?" I paused and replied, "Once unfaithful, always untrustworthy." "Oh, excuse me," I added. "I have a girlfriend now. We're getting engaged next year. My girlfriend, Melody Mel Miller, and I met at the law training course. After getting to know each other, I found out Mel had also been a member of the anti-scum organization. We had many common topics, and over time, we developed feelings for each other. But Victoria, still unwilling to give up, said, "Impossible. You must be lying to me. You're just saying that, Sincere. You clearly still love me." I interrupted her coldly. "I did love you very much before, but now I love my girlfriend very much. Victoria, I have no reason to lie to you. To put it bluntly, if I were still a good-for-nothing now, you definitely wouldn't be begging me like this, would you?" I exposed Victoria's true thoughts, and her face instantly turned pale. Victoria's lips twitched. She was speechless for a long moment, and finally left the law firm in disgrace. Afterward, Victoria never set foot in my law firm again. I heard that to save money, she went to an unknown law firm, lost her case, received very little in the settlement, and was constantly threatened by creditors associated with Gabriel Moss. To avoid trouble, Victoria kept moving but was constantly haunted by Gabriel Moss, like a malevolent spirit. But I was getting married soon. My current girlfriend and I are very happy. The past is completely over.